We've created 5 free Unreal projects where we've paired Metahuman heads with Paragon character bodies. Because the Paragon characters and the Metahumans are both completely free, you can download these project files and use them in whatever capacity that you want. In this video, we're going to walk through how to connect these project files to your Rokoko motion capture, but you could also retarget any other motion capture you have to these characters or keyframe animate them yourself. Follow the link below to download the project files, and let's get in and take a peek. So before we start jumping into the actual project files themselves, let's just go over what we'll need to have happening in Rokoko Studio to get this all working. So right here I have a recording I made with my smart suit, my smart gloves, and our facial capture solution. So first piece of information we need is your actor profile name, whether that's for a live suit or a recording like this one. The second thing we're going to need to do is make sure that our live stream is on. So this workflow requires use of the live streaming plugins. If you don't have access to them already, we offer a 30-day free trial, and you can also subscribe monthly. So if you don't need them all the time, you can just subscribe for a month and then use the live streaming plugins as you need them, and then stop the subscription. So for this one, we're going to need to toggle on our Unreal Engine module. So you can see right here, I have it toggled on. And when I do, this is the information for our streaming. So we're streaming out to port 14045. And you can modify that and change that by changing the numbers right here. So the two pieces of information we need for these workflows is one, the port number that we're using, which for us is port 14045, and the actor profile name that we're using. So for you, it's probably not going to be Sam. It's going to be your name or whatever name you're using in that actor profile. So with that said, let's jump into Unreal and take a look at these project files. So this is from the Kwang project file. You can see that we have some sweet armor here, and there's some cloth physics with this little piece of dangling cloth. So all that's already set up. And now we can just open up the project and take a peek at how this is all actually working. So here's the .zip you'll download. I'll open up the Kwang file. Here we go, we're opened up, and as you can see, we are made up of, this character is made up of two separate pieces. If we look in our little outliner here, we have the Kwang character body. This is the Paragon character body. And then we have this blueprint of our Metahuman right here. So this is parented to the body. And the way that you can do that is if we actually just remove this right here, we turn off the body, you can see that we have the Metahuman head isolated, and we just released a tutorial for how to do that. But if you want to parent an isolated head with a body, we want to parent it to the head bone of this body. So I just drag my blueprint of my Metahuman onto my Paragon character, search for head, select it, and now if we move that head bone, or if we move the whole character, you see that the head is going to stick with the body. And I can always zero this out to center it, zero out the rotation. There we go. So I've got my suit on and I want to get my data over to this character. What do we do? So there's a couple things that we need to do quickly. The first thing is we need to make a change for the actor profile name for this character's body. So we're going to go to Paragon Kwang, Characters, Heroes, Kwang, Meshes, and in here you can find the blueprint here for our Paragon character. If we double click this, here we have just kind of the general node tree that we use for any live streaming from Rokoko Studio to Unreal. And what you need to change here is right here you can see that we have Rokoko actor name Sam. Again, this matches the actor profile that I'm using in Rokoko Studio. So for you, you'll just need to go in and change this to whatever your actor profile name is. And then you'll hit compile and save. For the Metahuman itself right here, we're going to need to enter in the actor profile name into this subject. But for right now, I'm just going to clear this, because this I find is actually easier to do once we start LiveLink. And in order to start LiveLink, you need to make sure that you have a Rokoko receiver in your scene. So when you download the Rokoko plugin, you can find the Rokoko receiver just in the actors, tab here. Here it is, Rokoko receiver. There's already one placed in your scene, but you're going to need to make sure that this Rokoko port number matches the port number that you're using in Rokoko Studio. Again, we just looked at that. It was 14045 for us, but if for you it might be different. So make sure this port number matches the number that you're using right here in Rokoko Studio. Again, 14045 is what mine is set up as. So after we make sure our Rokoko receiver has the correct port number, we can turn on Live Link, go to Window, Live Link, and if that receiver is in your scene, you should be able to go and add a source, Rokoko Studio source, and boom, you see our two actors here in the menu. So now, if I go to my Metahuman, I can add from this drop down my face. And we're going to need to add the face to drive this Metahuman's facial animation. So at this point, Live Link is on. We've checked our Rokoko receiver. We've changed our actor profile name in our Paragon blueprint. We've added the face to our Metahuman, and we can hit play, and boom, we have everything working. Face is running, hands. There is cloth simulation happening from the Paragon character. Amazing. Ready to go. And at the end of this tutorial, we're going to be looking quickly at how this character is actually set up, because we did some things like removing the head of the Paragon character itself in order to add the Metahuman head, as well as getting rid of the sword and the weapons that comes with the Paragon character. There's a couple tricks involving transparent materials you can use to get rid of those. So with that, let's jump to our next project, which is going to be Crunch. So this one is a lot of fun. Obviously, I love it. The body is just super cool, robot body. And, you know, I love the little mohawk that we added for our Metahuman character. Because the proportions of this character are so odd, you will get foot slippage, perhaps, when you're using it with your, you know, normal human mocap. But that's just kind of a retargeting issue, and that's just part of the game a little bit. So for this character, I would either, you know, you go in and hand key to make sure the foot contact is correct, or just use this character from, you know, the knees up and kind of work around that slipping that you're going to get if you're running around using this character, just because the body proportions of this robot are so different. Okay, so this is the .zip file. Let's open up the project. There we go. This is what we'll be greeted with when we open it up. There's already a camera in here, which I'm actually just going to delete for now. So the method of getting the mocap working from Rokoko Studio with this character is going to be similar for all of these characters, but I want to run through it for each one just to show you where, you know, all the blueprints and everything are located. So for this character body, we're going to go find the Paragon Crunch body blueprint, which is under Paragon Crunch, Characters, Heroes, Crunch. And this one is not in meshes. You can see it's right here, Crunch Anim Blueprint. Open that up. And here we have amended our nodes to the end of this. You know, I haven't deleted all these other nodes that came with the Paragon character. They're still there, but these are the nodes that are being used to drive the mocap for this character's body. So again, here we have that Rokoko body pose node. You need to change this actor name to fit the actor name you're using in Rokoko Studio. You change it, compile it, save it. You can exit out. For the Metahuman head, again, I can just clear this for now, but let's go and make sure that our Rokoko receiver has the right port number. It does for us, 14045. We'll go and start Live Link. We get both of our actors here, and sometimes if these don't show up, you just trash it and add the source in again, and sometimes you only get one of them. I'm not sure why, but you can always just trash it and add it again. And also, if you aren't seeing these pop up, it's usually because your Rokoko receiver is not set up correctly and you're not streaming out of Rokoko Studio to this port number. So, Live Link is on. We can go to our Metahuman head right here. Again, in the drop down, we can add my face and under the Live Link face subject. And at this point, Live Link is on. We can hit play. There we go, everything's working. The other thing to know about this character is that sometimes the fingers will kind of close in a little bit of an angle. But again, this is a super fun character. I think that would be great for a lot of different scenes. You can imagine him dropping out of a dropship or something, or I don't know. He's got a lot of graffiti on his gloves there, so maybe he's doing graffiti in the city or something, but super cool little character. And again, you can already see some of this foot sliding happening, and that's just a function of these proportions being vastly different from what the data is in Rokoko Studio. So that is how you get crunch set up. Let's move on to our next character, which is going to be Sparrow. So this is kind of, I don't know, like a Robin Hood or kind of an elf type creature. You know, this Paragon character uses a bow normally, but the really cool thing about this character, I think, is that you have this amazing, you know, dynamic cloth cape that is behind the character. So that's super fun. You can imagine them dropping in, you know, off a ledge or something and getting the cape flaring out. And so loved this cape, and I think this character is really cool as well. So how do we get it working with our mocap? Again, we're just going to open up the project file that we'll get from the .zip. Let the shaders compile. And there we go. We have our character here. And again, it's going to be pretty much the same process. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to clear this live link face subject. I mean, I wouldn't normally need to do this because this already matches mine, but I think it's informative if I do it every time. We just go through it from scratch. So first thing I'm going to do is go and change the name for our character, Paragon Sparrow, Heroes Sparrow. Here is the blueprint, and again, this is for the body of our character, which the head is, you know, parented to. But we are adding mocap to the body, which is then driving the head. And it's the same kind of node tree here. We would want to change the name under Rokoko actor name, compile, save, same process as before. And then we would go make sure our Rokoko receiver has the right port number. Again, it's always going to be right for us because I made it on this computer and this is the port number I use, but you always want to make sure it's the right port number from Rokoko Studio. Once that's done, we can turn on Live Link, add our Rokoko Studio source. We get both of our actors, our body, and our face. At this point, we can add on our Metahuman head here from the drop down the face. And now hit play. Woo! Cape goes flying, and there we go. We have another character. And so the characters that have the more human, you know, kind of more normal proportions, you're going to get a lot less foot drift because this character's proportions matches, you know, the mocap that's coming out of Rokoko Studio, as opposed to Crunch, who has those massive hips and those giant legs. This character looks pretty good right out of the box. Another thing to note here is just that this character doesn't actually have a neck. So this is kind of, you know, I don't think you'll really notice, but something to be aware of. If you have lights in your scene or something, you might need to modify this character a little bit to get that neck back, but we thought that this was enough to get started and just start playing around with this. So there we go. That's Sparrow. Okay, next character is going to be Twinblast, our cyber ninja. I love this character. I think it all just looks super cool. And again, because the proportions of this Paragon character's body are more closely resembling that's coming out of Rokoko Studio, I find the fidelity for this character, Twinblast, is actually really fantastic. So to open up this Twinblast project, I'm going to open it up right here. Here we go. This is what we should see when we open up our project. And so no cloth simulations on this one, but really cool, you know, robotic arms and fingers and everything, which just look awesome. Love this character, and it also just receives mocap really well. So what are we going to do? Well, we kind of know the drill at this point, but the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, you know, remove this face. Again, I'm just doing that for instructional purposes. Normally I would leave it because it's already the correct name for my Rokoko Studio character, you know, which is Sam. To get the body mocap working, we're going to go into Paragon Twinblast, Characters, Heroes, Twinblast. Here is the blueprint right here. Double click it, And we're going to do the same thing. You can see here that we have the Rokoko body pose. You just need to change your actor name here and then compile and save. Make sure it's matching what you have in Rokoko Studio. Then I will make sure my Rokoko receiver has the correct port. It does. I will go and add my live link studio source. Boom. We got our 2 actors here. At this point, we should now be able to see in the drop down for our Metahuman face, this actor profile face coming from Rokoko Studio. And now if we hit play, boom, Twinblast working. So again, I think this character is just a lot of fun. It just, the mocap works really well on this body. You can see the hands and the fidelity. It just looks really good, I think. And you'll have to cut around this character, I think, a little bit less than you might have to cut around, say, the Crunch character, right? Where you're trying to hide some of that foot sliding. This character is really pretty proportioned, pretty perfectly to receive mocap. So there we go. That's Twinblast. Okay, so the last character we're going to take a look at is Terra. And this character is slightly different in that we used a little bit of a different workflow, which we've put a link to the YouTube video we used to set up this character in the description below. That's because we wanted to preserve the neck. And I know I'd mentioned this a little bit earlier on. It's just a little bit more of a complex workflow, but you can follow the link in the description below to find out how we retained the neck from this metahuman and kind of slotted it down into the armor. And obviously I love this character. You know, the armor is super cool. I used this character to make a little short test film using Unreal Engine and Unreal assets that are all, you know, in the starter kits. And yeah, this character is awesome. The reflections on the armor, super cool. And let's take a look at how it's actually, you know, how we can get it working. So here again, we have the .zip, what you'll get from the .zip. So let's open up the project file. And the immediate difference that you might be able to tell is that, you know, as opposed to all the other project files, which had a metahuman head parented to a Paragon character body, in this workflow, it's all just the metahuman blueprint. So what we've done is we've gone and replaced the body mesh for the metahuman with the mesh from the Paragon character. So you could do this for all of the Paragon characters if you wanted. It's just a much more involved workflow. Again, you can check out that link in the description below for how we set up this Terra character, but you know, it's very doable. It's just, I find it's a little bit easier just to, you know, plop the head of a metahuman onto a Paragon body as opposed to doing a more complicated blueprint to have a single source here. So how would we go ahead and get our mocap connected to this character? So what we're going to actually do for this one is we're going to go to the Metahuman folder. We're going to go to Common. We're going to go to Female, Medium, Normal Weight, Body. And if we double click on this blueprint here, female, medium, normal weight, and a blueprint, here we have our various nodes that we're using to drive the mocap. So here's where you would replace that actor name, right? And you would compile it and you would save it. And let me exit out here. And then on this character, we still have the live link face subject, even though it's all combined into a single mesh here and you don't have that parented setup. So I'm going to clear this for now so we can add it after we add in our live link, get our live link set up. So I have my Rokoko receiver in the scene, 14045, the magic number for me. Because that is the correct number, I can go and start live link. Add our Rokoko studio source as normal. We get our 2 actors here. And I will just add in the face into my blueprint. And if we hit play, there we go, looking cool. One thing to note about this Paragon character is I have not been able to figure out why there is this kind of webbing in between some of the fingers, which you can see there. that just seems to be a facet of how this mesh is built. I think there's just some connected points in between the fingers. So we don't have a fix for that. But again, with some creative, cinematography, you can kind of cut around it. In this example, you can see that this motion still totally works, even though the webbing is there. So just something to be aware of as you're using this character. So now I just want to go over one little tip for how we are getting rid of geometry mesh that we're not using with these characters. So let's say, for instance, you can see right here that this arm is clipping through the pauldrons of this character, right? These are massive pauldrons. So, unless you're otherwise animating these pauldrons to get out of the way, maybe I just want to remove them. How would I go about doing that? Well, in Unreal, you can't really edit a mesh like you can in the other 3D programs. Instead, the workaround for this is you basically create a completely transparent material, which you then apply to those parts of the character mesh. So let me show you what I mean. So first thing, let's create a transparent material. I also, if you search in this project transparent, you'll get the material I created to create this character. But let's just create a new material from scratch so you know how to create a transparent material. So I'm going to right click in my content browser, create a material. We'll call this transparent 2, nice and messy. If we open this up, you can see that we have our basic material here. It's just black. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this material. I'm going to change the blend mode to translucent. And that gives us this opacity little node that we can add onto here. So now if we add a constant, and you can get a constant either by dragging it out from here, or you can always right click in the blueprint and search for constant. But if I wire this constant at 0 into opacity, what this is essentially telling the material is, okay, for opacity, we want the value to be 0. If I were to change the value of this constant to, let's say, 1, oh, it's not transparent. If I was to change it to 50, or 0.5 rather, not 50, it would be semi-transparent, right? It would be 50% opacity. So in this case, we want 0. We want it to be completely invisible. And so I would then hit apply, hit save, and now I have this transparent material. So if we jump back into our scene here, let's say I wanted to get rid of these pauldrons. So what I would do is I would go find my character, right, in my outliner, right here, BP Peyton. And in this case, I need to go to the body of this Metahuman. And you can see here we have tons of materials, and some of them, already have assigned transparent material. So you can see what we can do right here to get rid of these shoulders is just add this transparent material, boom, onto there. And now those shoulders are gone. They haven't really been deleted, but this is usually the best way to kind of get around the fact that we can't delete geometry. And so throughout all of these projects that we've been going through, I've used this method to get rid of various parts of the, the Paragon character geometries. And, here's the axe, for instance. If you wanted to add the axe back in, you would just kind of go around and click these return, reset to default buttons. Or you could go in and actually search for the axe. But again, if we don't want the axe, add our transparent material. If we do want the axe, reset to default, and it'll bring that material right back. And now if we hit play, we've got our character with a massive axe and no shoulder pauldrons. And that is how you use those transparent materials to get rid of parts of your Paragon character. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to cover is what if, it's great to be able to just get our mocap up and running with this character, but what if we wanted to add this character into another scene that we've been building, another map that we've been building, and we wanted to record mocap onto this character and then use it in that scene for a cutscene or, whatever it might be. Let's go through that process right now. So I have this Brushify pack that I got from the Unreal Marketplace. And if we look at this pre-built map that comes with it, everything is loaded in. And we can cruise around our scene. I'm gonna up my camera speed a little bit here. Let's take it to 3. And here we have a scene, right? And let's say we want to add our Paragon character / metahuman into this scene. So how would we go about and do that? Because we obviously don't have the character in here right now. So first thing I'm going to do is I would go and find my Paragon body. So that's not going to be under Paragon, Kwang, Heroes, Kwang, and go to Meshes. We're looking for that blueprint, right? So if I grab that blueprint, I'm going to add it to the scene, and I'm going to reset the position to 0. I think it's always easiest to reset the position to 0, just because it means that everything is zeroed out and you know exactly where that character stands. If we want to find it, we just select it from the drop down, hit F, and the 0 point is all the way out over here, but that's okay, because that's where we're going to do all of our changes. So you can see here that this is the Paragon character, just as is. It already has its head still here, the sword is still here, and we actually want to get rid of some of these things using that transparent material method that we were looking at a little while ago. So here I have the transparent materials. Again, you can create your own if you need it. But now I'll go through and just add these transparent materials to all the things I want to get rid of. Nope, we want to keep that weapon because that was the cool shoulders. And oops, actually it looks like we wanted to keep that torso. You gotta actually look at what we're doing. So that one is the head. We want to get rid of that. We want to keep all these arms and everything else. So we don't want the weapon. Get rid of that. Oh, but right, that's actually the pauldrons. So maybe this one is the other weapon. Nope, if it's not getting rid of something we can see, then I'm going to leave it. Man bun, arm is still there. Hands, we want to keep. Hair, we don't want. Mouth, we don't want. You can see we're slowly getting rid of all these bits of mesh that we don't want. Here we go. Eye occlusion. And here, I believe, is the sword. We can get rid of the sword. So for this character, this little head, hairband thing is actually a part of the armor, so we can't get rid of that. So we've just used a metahuman who has hair that will cover that up. So at this point, we need to add our metahuman, right? And I can go ahead and lift this character up. I like to keep it at 0, but I can just lift it up out of the ground, just on the Z axis. So how do we add our metahuman to this now? So I'm going to go back to my main content folder, go find my metahuman blueprint, which we can find under metahumans and then the metahuman name. And right here, we're going to add this blueprint into our scene. We're going to reset. Actually, I'll leave the reset position right now at blank. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in to this metahuman and select various bits that we don't want. So we don't want the body of the metahuman. So I'm going to clear that. Don't want the torso. I'm going to clear that. Don't want the legs. Clear that. And I don't want the feet. And there's several methods of doing this, right? Of isolating this metahuman head. We went over another one in a tutorial that we just released, but the point is you need a metahuman head that has been isolated for this to work, right? So whatever method you're using, we could have added transparent materials to all of these instead of getting rid of the meshes. There's a couple different ways to do it. This is just how I'm doing it right here. So now that we have the head isolated, I will zero it out because I want to put it right on the same axis as our character because it just makes it a little bit easier. Then I'm going to select the top, main level of this metahuman, this self, and I am going to raise it up and basically just position it into place. And if you hold down Alt and middle mouse key, you can actually move this axis right here, which I always think is useful. But I'm going to place this metahuman, right on the neck, right here. There we go, into position. And you could tweak this a little bit more. I think that probably looks fine. Maybe I'll Sink him down a little. No, yeah, that looks good. That's right, going in there. And his beard covers up, you know, any neck issues you might have. Now, once this is in position, I can go and take that Metahuman blueprint, drag it onto my Paragon blueprint here, and I'm going to pair it to the head bone. Head. There we go. And so now I can grab this Paragon character, and we are all the way out in the boonies here. I'm going to move this, you know, over to the nice road, or whatever, wherever we want this character in our scene. Maybe on the path here. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so now we have our character. Let's attach our mocap, which is still running in the background here, just on repeat. And this is just an asset, again, that I've recorded earlier. This could be a live suit. What matters here is this Sam, you know, name for our actor profile. So, same, you know, thing that we did before for the live link face subject. Actually, in this we need to add a Rokoko receiver because it's not currently in this scene because this was a new map. So I need to add my Rokoko receiver, make sure my port number is correct. At that point, we can go to the Metahuman BP. We can't add the face yet because we don't have live link turned on. But what we can do is, if we need to check the actor profile name for our Paragon character body, we can go to that Paragon character body under Paragon Kwang, characters, heroes, Kwang, you know, meshes, wherever it might be. Remember, we're gonna add in the name of our actor profile that we're using in Rokoko Studio, compile that, save it. We can turn on live link now. There we go. And now, if we select our Metahuman face, we should see in the drop-down window the face. And now if we hit play in here, here we go. We have our Metahuman in our scene, you know, using our mocap and being driven by the mocap. So at this point, let's say I want to record this motion capture to this Metahuman. So the way that I would go about doing that is, first thing I would do is go to the take recorder. So sometimes you have to click twice to actually get into it, but make sure you're in the take recorder. I'm going to add my Paragon Kwang character body, as well as this blueprint of the Metahuman. So I have my Metahuman blueprint and my character body blueprint. And from here, you know, with this playing, what I would do is I would kind of queue up this recording to a good place. And let's say, you know, right here is where I want it to start. And I would take this, I have another monitor, I'll go off screen, and I will hit record. And then off screen, boom, I hit play right as that countdown starts. And this is how you can kind of control what you are recording. So let's say that's enough. I'll hit stop. Hit pause on Rokoko Studio off screen. And now I will stop my simulation, my play in my window here. And now we need to add, you know, how do we get that recording onto this character in Sequencer? Well, what we would do is we would create a new level sequence. I'm going to call this Kwang Render. Always make sure you're in that level sequence in Sequencer, which, you know, if you're not, you can be doing a ton of work in Sequencer only to realize that you're not in a level sequence and none of it is being saved. So make sure you create that level sequence. Now I'm going to add in my Paragon character, and you can see that my Metahuman is parented, you know, to the character. So when I add in the character, I'm going to get the Metahuman face as well. For now, I'm going to delete this control rig. And under face, I will go to plus track animation. And here is that animation that we just recorded with the take recorder. So if I add that in, next thing I'll do is select that animation in Sequencer. And by default, it's still going to be using the blueprint. So I want it to be using an animation asset. Again, what we just recorded. So I'm going to go find that under anim to play, and I keyframe this. And at this point, if we hit play, you can see that our face is working. And if I actually double click this animation, I can drag out this out so it fits the whole animation. So there's our face. Now we need the body. So I will go to under the body animation. I will go find that animation that we recorded. And it's usually somewhere at the bottom. You know, it's going to have that kind of sequence 01, depending on how many recordings you've made in this project. But you can kind of scroll around and you'll be able to, here it is right here. Kwang, skeleton, and blueprint. You could search for it as well. But I'm going to add that to the scene. You know, make sure it's at 0. Then I'm going to click on that animation in my scene. Again, it's going to be using the anim blueprint. We don't want that. We want to use the animation asset. And if we just search sequence this time, oh, that's not gonna help actually. But we can scroll down and find it manually. It's usually one of the longer ones. I guess you could search scene. Let's search scene and see what happens. Yeah, scene. There we go. It pops up right away. Add that. By default, it's just going to be playing, but I keyframe it, and then it's not playing anymore. I'll just make sure that keyframe is on 0. Not that it really matters. But now, you can see in Sequencer, here we go. Now we have our animation playing, and everything is working. So that's kind of, you know, briefly how you might go around about recording these animations. You know, there are so many different methods to kind of do this. This is just one method of how you could, you know, isolate the head and get rid of part of the mesh of the Paragon character. There's a lot of different methods out here. Mostly this video was just about showing you at least one method where you can get this all working, and also just running through the project files themselves and kind of going through where everything is located. So we hope, you know, this was helpful. We are super pumped about the Metahuman still. It's just crazy the quality you can get with them, and when you pair them with these pre-made Paragon character armors, it's just awesome. You get some really, really cool AAA results. I mean, because again, you know, these bodies were made for a AAA game that just Epic decided at one point to give away all the meshes for free. So you can use, you know, these project files for whatever you want, commercial work, it does not matter, you know, and hopefully you know enough at this point to make your own model using Paragon, you know, character bodies, or perhaps even something else, maybe a model that you bought. And I also encourage you to check out our tutorial that we made just about how to specifically go and isolate the Metahuman head, because that's on our channel right now, and that will help you on your journey of trying to kind of connect these metahumans to other bodies. So, as I said before, put your questions in the comments below. We will do our best to answer them, and we hope this was super helpful and that you will have as much fun as we've been having with these metahumans and these Paragon characters. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.